Mary ma'am, can you make a short announcement to the participants to enable their audio?
Yeah, I'll do that. Nelson, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Shall we start 9:34?
Okay.
Okay.
1 minute, ma'am. Just a minute.
Dear participants, kindly join with your audio. And many of you have entered with your device name. So kindly go to the participants icon, click on it, and you get an option to rename. So do rename and give your personal name. Nelson, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, shall we start?
Sure.
Let us begin our day with a minute of silent prayer. Thank you, participants. A very good morning and a warm welcome to all of you for the first session of the day on redefining excellence for slow learners. It is my pleasure to introduce the eminent speaker for the session, Dr. Justin Nelson Michael, Professor, School of Management and Director, Center for Research, Christu Jayanti College. Sir has contributed to research through his various publications and is serving as editor and reviewer in various reputed international journals. Sir has conducted several workshops, technical sessions, and CCPD training programs for enhancing teaching and administrative skills for the school and college teaching fraternity. Without much delay, I welcome you, sir, to address the delegates on various strategies to enhance excellence in slow learners by teaching them in the way they learn. A small instruction to all the participants. The protocol that we follow for the daily sessions, we do follow the same today. I repeat once again. The speaker will complete his session, and after which we will take up the questions. But participants, you can always put your questions in the chat box and we will make note of it, and the answers will be provided to the end of the session. And once again, I repeat, participants who have not entered their name while joining, please click on participants icon, what you find below the screen, and rename the device names that you're connected with your names. And normally your names or your device name is the first one displayed when you click on your participants icon. I find still few of you have not joined with audio, so it will not be audible. You will only be seeing the video. So kindly either leave the meeting and join with video, audio, or you can always go to the option where you find a mic symbol. You have the audio settings there, and you can enable the speaker, your audio option there. So hope all of you have a fruitful learning session this morning. Nelson, sir. Nelson, sir, can you hear me?
Ma'am.
Yeah, you can start on, sir.
A very good morning, respected principals, administrators, teachers, and all my friends. It is indeed a great joy for me this morning to talk about something that I'm very passionate about. This is something that is very dear to the heart of every teacher. So it is a great opportunity for me this morning to share all the experiences that we have had as teachers with the entire forum that is present here this morning. So we began with a prayer seeking the blessings of Almighty. And then we are going to proceed with the session. And I hope that this session would be entertaining. I have certain requests to the participants. Please have a look at the screen. Please keep looking at the screen. Do not move away from the screen because there might be some surprises for you during the session. There will be certain surprises that I have planned. So please stay on the screen because we understand that during online workshops, people tend to switch it on and then move around in their house just listening to it. But for this session, a humble request, please stay tuned to the screen because there will be some surprises. You have to pay attention to that. And those surprises will be for a very short period of time. So please stay tuned. The second request is that we would not be having any kind of discussion during the session. We would keep it to the end. So at the end, I also request my learned colleagues from Center for Continuing Professional Development and also from Krishna Jayanti College to join with the discussion because I do not think that I would be able to answer all the questions myself. I request all my participants also, and also the principals, administrators, and teachers in the forum to also join in for the discussion that would be in the end. And so please stay tuned. Before I begin, I want to bring your attention to Edward de Bono's thinking hats, 6 thinking hats. But this morning, I want to remind you of 3 thinking hats. The first hat is the hat of the principal or the administrator. I'm not going to wear it. So the hat of the principal or the administrator, well, so that is a hat. The second hat that we would be talking about is the hat of the teacher, right? As a teacher, we have a hat. Okay. And the third is nothing but a cap for the student. Fine. So there are going to be 3 hats I request you to wear during the sessions. Depending upon how we will be proceeding with the session. So it depends also on the hat that you would be wearing throughout the session. Before we begin, as teachers, let us remind ourselves that every child who comes to our classroom is unique. Every child who comes to our school is unique. They come in different colors, right? They come in different colors. They come in different shapes. They come in different shapes. Okay? Some are very, very small, very tiny in terms of their understanding, in terms of their learning, in terms of their social skills. So they come in different sizes, different shapes, different attitudes, different temperaments. But each child is unique. Each child is different. And therefore, as teachers, we need to understand that how do we reach out to the children who are very, very different. So I hope you are able to see the screen now. So I'm starting with that. So as we begin, okay, so as Mary ma'am had already introduced, I'm Nelson, and the best definition I would like to give about myself is that I am a teacher. I love being a teacher. I feel it a great blessing that God has given me this great call to be a teacher. Now, I request you to put on the hat of a teacher and please answer the poll. I request the host to kindly launch the poll on experience. Okay, I request the host to kindly share the results. So we find that 53% of our participants have an experience of 10 to 20 years. And then we have some who have more than 30 years of experience. We have people with 20 to 30 years of experience, 16%, and then less than 10 years, it's about 30%. So we find a majority of the participants have an experience of above 10 years. So we understand that a majority of you have got a great experience in terms of teaching, and let us proceed further. So this would be a snapshot of what I would be talking about for today. So we'll be trying to understand who is this special category of people. We'll try to understand what are the challenges that they face. Let us see how we can identify slow learners and also how to redefine excellence for slow learners, the topic of the day, in three different areas, or rather four different areas: the school, the classroom, the effective teacher, then the student himself or herself. And I would like to touch upon a very important concept, the mindset of an effective educator. And finally, remind us that we are all called to be charismatic adults. Okay, so who is the slow learner? Well, we don't like labels, and therefore let us call them as special learners, or gifted learners, or super duper learners. Well, we do not like the labels. And we all understand that there are different levels of learning. So we have those who have learning above the average, those who learn at the expected level, and those who learn below the average. The psychologists and educationists would try to tell us that the slow learner or the super duper learner belongs to the category 3. So these are children who find it very difficult to cope with normal work expected of age group. So they could be children whose scholastic performance is below the average expected of their age group. And some of them say that they have below average intelligence. Well, these are some of the definitions that they are there. And as experienced teachers, you also know that. Okay, before we go on to that, let me ask you another question. I request the host to please, I request the host to kindly put poll number 2, selection. Assume two candidates A and B have the same teaching aptitude, communication skills, and personality, but differ in the academic performance. While A has 70%, B has 50%. Whom would you recruit as a teacher in your school? Okay. Okay, I find only 48 people have answered. Okay, 88, 99. Okay, 135, 167, 175. I request all the participants to kindly cast their votes, because this is very, very crucial, a very crucial question. Okay, so as I said, we'll be giving just a few minutes, just a few seconds more, and then I would, okay, it's about 287 people out of 360 who have taken the poll. So I think 60 people are away from their screen. So as a teacher, I keep track of where my class is. So now still 60 people, 58 are away from their screens. Okay, right? So I think they are outstanding classmates. Let us, so let us close the poll. Let us close the poll and see the results. So we have about 65% of, 65% of the participants, the administrators and teachers in this forum, who say that they would select candidate A. And about 40% have said that they would select candidate B. I really appreciate the 40% who said they would want to give a chance for the teacher B. Because the reason is, most often, slow learners tend to communicate to us that the teacher does not understand. I don't know whether the psychological theory may be correct, but sometimes people feel that a super learner or a smart learner, most of the teachers tend to be in the category of people with very high IQ levels. And therefore, would it be easy for them or difficult for them to understand children who have low levels of IQ or who are struggling in their classes? Well, so that was the purpose of this particular question. So let us move forward. I request the host to kindly post the next poll percentage. Okay. So some of you are wondering, it's a quick guess. It's a quick guess. Okay. I have this weird feeling that in this class, about 60 of the children have gone off away from the classroom. So as teachers, when you're taking online classes, please find out ways to know whether your children are attending the class. Okay, so, okay, still 67 children are away from the classroom. Okay, now 64 children are away. Okay, so let us not wait for them to come back. So I request the host to kindly share the results. Okay, so we find that 12% of you said it is less than 5%, 37%, 5 to 10%, 24% have said that it is 10 to 15%, and then we have about 19% saying that it is 15 to 20, and then 8% saying it is above 20%. So on total, we can see about majority of you agree with what the NCERT statistics tell us. So the NCERT statistics tell us that the percentage is somewhere between 5 to 15%. So this is what our national center tells us. So in a class where we have about one of out of every 10 children to be in this category, what are the strategies we have to meet their needs? So that is the question. I was just talking to my friends and relatives who are working as teachers in government colleges, government schools, and they have told me that this percentage is really large in rural government schools where we have more than 50%, at times 70% of the children belong to this category. And therefore, we need to really understand how to meet their needs. What are the challenges faced by slow learners? So some of the challenges, I have just put it here. So their learning is progressive. They do not progress in the same speed as their counterparts. They lack higher order thinking and reasoning skills. And very often, there are labels that are put on them as incapable, failure, useless, dull. You can't do it. So, a lot that comes from the external environment. And the starting point of these labels, unfortunately, is the teacher. Even today, even in the best of schools, we have teachers who are using such negative labels on the children. Well, we might think that it may not be me, but there are teachers. But the danger is, even if the school has one such teacher, the harm that he or she is causing on the children is very, very indelible. So that is the problem of labels, because these labels stick on throughout the life of these children. So this is one of the biggest challenges that they face. The problem with labels is they come into the school without these labels and later start getting convinced of these labels. That is a danger. And most often, these children are aware of their difficulty. And because of this, they land into anxiety, negative self image, they lack self confidence. And whatever task you give them, they try to give up very, very easily. And at times, they even struggle socially. They're not able to make friends very easily at times because they find themselves uninteresting or unworthy of friendship, which is very, very much needed in their growing years. It is very needed for them to have the acceptance, the love, the admiration, and the warmth of their fellow classmates, of their peers. So these are some of the challenges that our slow learners are facing. So I would not go too much into this. How can we identify slow learners? Some simple ways. So as experienced teachers, you are very, very familiar with how to identify slow learners. So uh, it could be general observation. Teachers are very, very observant by looking at how they behave. Or it could be their performance in certain subjects, their overall performance or performance in certain subjects. Or we could talk to their parents, get to know from their parents. So parents often tell us what are the difficulties that these children face. Or we could have IQ testing, which is very professional, which gives the IQ scores. And we all know that a score below 70 would indicate, 70 to 85 would indicate that this child is is belonging to the category of slow learner. Well, if it goes below 70, generally psychologists tell us that the child is having a disability in learning. So this is one way of getting to know how we can identify them. And there are so many other professional tests, competence tests, and diagnostic tests, which I'm sure that you would be doing in your school. Okay, this is a nice quotation. When I was doing my reading, I found it in the newspaper Nation, which comes from Pakistan. The focus should not be on what the student is missing, because they rarely are. It should definitely be on how the educational and schooling system is letting them down. Okay, I now request our administrator to kindly share poll number 4, your level. Okay, this is a very, very emotional, or like to say a personal question. I'm going to ask this to you. So looking back at your childhood, do you feel that you were a slow learner or had learning difficulty? There are about 100 of my students in the class who are not present in the classroom. I request the outstanding students to please come inside the class. As I mentioned at the beginning of this session, I said there would be surprises on your screen. So outstanding children, please come back inside the classroom and answer the questions on the screen. So I still have 65 children out. Okay, so 87% of you have voted. Okay. So I'm going to request our admin to kindly close the poll and share it. It's a wonderful result. Yeah. So we have about a 50-50, a 50-50 situation, right? We have about a 50-50 situation. We have 50% saying yes and 50% saying no. I really appreciate you for giving uh, 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 your personal feeling over here, for accepting what happened to you in your childhood. Well, that is really, really great, because this is the first time I gave this question to school leaders and experienced teachers. This is the first time I'm giving, and I was a little skeptical. I was wondering whether people would be able to accept among 400 others that they were a slow learner. I really, really appreciate you for that. Because one of the questions that slow learners, or one of the anxieties that they say, is my teacher doesn't know what it means to be a slow learner. My teacher doesn't understand what the difficulties I face, because as a slow learner, you know very well and you know better what the feelings of your child would be. But I don't mean to say that those who were super learners or toppers in the class, they won't understand. It is not so. We are all teachers, and it is easy for us because it comes as our second nature to understand our children. So can we stop sharing the polls? Yes. Okay. So let us come to how to redefine excellence for slow learners, right? So let us see some of the strategies. And from the slow learners, they want it to be really good because they are really, really smart. They're really very gifted. And we need to find ways and means to reach out to them. So we'll be focusing on uh, so the focus is the holistic development of the student, the holistic development of the child. So how can we focus on the holistic development of the child, especially the slow learner? So it starts with the school environment. Starts with the school environment. We're going to talk about school attachment. And then the next feature is the classroom culture. How is the classroom ambience, and the most important factor, the teacher, the effective teacher. What role does a teacher have in redefining their excellence? And the most important segment, the tools required to reach out to the slow learners. Okay, so let us see what are all the strategies that are there. So these strategies have been put together after reading through various researches that have been conducted for empowering and engaging slow learners. So the school attachment, I would like to present before you, I'm sorry, yeah, this model given by House and Ritchie. House and Ritchie's model talks about school attachment. So this model, I'm sure it looks very simple, and I'm sure as principals and academic leaders, you would all agree that children who have a sense of attachment to their school tend to perform better. They tend to perform better. They try to aspire higher. So the starting point is to inculcate an attachment where this child feels secure, because we say that school is the second home. It is home away from home. So if it is a residential school, it is a home away from home. So it is a second home for the child. So the child needs to feel secure and have a sense of belonging, that this is my school. So it is very essential to create a physical and an emotional environment that is conducive for the welfare of the slow learners. So we're talking about an ambience of inclusivity and also an ambience of appreciation where every child feels special. Every child feels special, whether the child is an advanced learner or whether the child is a slow learner. And also, the child feels accepted and feels that everybody is cooperating in his or her journey. The classroom plays a very, very important role in the growth of the child. So the child needs to feel, I'm very sorry, the fonts have run into when I started the presentation, but the first one is to have warmth and respect in their class, to experience warmth and respect. So if the child experiences this warmth and respect, so we need to create that ambience in the classroom. uh, the classroom ambience should be one where there is very low levels of conflict and disruptive behavior among the children. So this can be ensured only by the class teacher or the teachers who go to that particular class. Every activity that has been planned is able to move very, very smoothly. There is a smooth movement of all the activities. There is no disruption. There is respectful communication among the children. Does the school inculcate respectful communication? There is no naming names, calling names, or let us say bullying that is happening. Can we create a lot of respect? The respect doesn't come in terms of the marks that the child is scored, but rather just because who he or she is, the being a person, just being a person, that amount of respectful communication that has to be inculcated in the classroom. And classes, we need to focus only on the tasks and not on the weaknesses of the child. So whatever tasks are there, so if a child does not accomplish a particular task, the child should not be labeled as a failure. Rather, that the child has not completed or not succeeded in that particular task. And we need to create supportiveness for individual differences. So not only the teacher, but every child in the classroom also needs to understand that her friend, her peer is different and has got different needs. And also have that supporting attitude, a lot of attachment that they need to create and supportiveness to each other. Coming to the next important factor, the most important factor, I would say, the teacher, the affecting relationship that a teacher has with the student. So the teacher can make the difference in the classroom. A teacher, I have just put a few of the features of a favorable teacher-student relationship. So a child needs to feel secure. A child needs to feel secure, a sense of security with the teacher. The child needs to feel valued, to feel worth. There has to be a sense of worth. A child should not be valued only for the marks he or she scores or for the talents that he or she has, but just for being a person, for being a child, a sense of security. If the teacher can give that great security that a child has, the child will definitely blossom into someone who's great and wonderful. A teacher needs to impart confidence in the child. No child comes as a perfect person. We all know that even after so many years, we are not perfect. We still struggle. We still work on ourselves. So we need to give the confidence to the child. We need to display a lot of care and respect. So once the child feels cared for and knows that the teacher is concerned about him or her, the child feels that the teacher respects him or her, definitely the child will develop the confidence required to grow. The teacher needs to create the social support necessary for the growth of the slow learner. So this happens by positive attitude, positive words, positive affirmations constantly to the child, appreciating every small action, appreciating activities done by the child, and also assurance that the teacher would be walking hand in hand, would be walking hand in hand, would stand by the child. If the child falls, the teacher needs to give the assurance that he or she would definitely lift her up and not blame her for falling down. If the child falls, I also fall. If the child does not succeed, I also fail. And therefore, as a teacher, I need to give that support, that scaffolding. We call that the teacher, and the school provides the positive scaffolding for the growth of a slow learner. A teacher needs to be highly empathetic. Empathy is the number one quality for a teacher. Most often, slow learners say that my teacher does not understand me. So, as a teacher, I need to have that empathy. I need to feel what the student feels. Why is he or she going through this problem? Why is he or she going through this problem? Well, if I put myself in the shoes of my child, I would understand the difficulties he or she is facing. And as a teacher, if my child, if my slow learner, if I'm going to blame him or her, call labels or put her down, I need to ask this question to myself. If this child were my own child, would I do this? Would I be calling names? Would I be putting down this child if this child were my own? And a teacher needs to be patient unconditionally, ultimately. Patience, patience, patience. Because that is a mark of a teacher. We are not working in a factory where we are producing objects, where we are producing other gadgets. We are working with human heart, mind, and soul. We need to be patient. And we need to give them, we need to engage them, motivate them to be engaged in the class. So that is what we need to do as effective teachers. I kept this particular point, which is the result of various researches conducted around the world on effective teachers. An effective teacher is one who realizes that he or she makes a lifelong impact on her child. It is not for that one particular class I'm going to teach. It is for the life of my child. I might be thinking that I'm teaching algebra today. I'm teaching, let us say, taxonomy today. I'm teaching English grammar today. I'm teaching language today. It is not that what is happening in my classroom. Rather, I am touching their life forever. So whatever I do or say today can have a lifelong impact. I'm touching their lives forever. An effective teacher is one who walks into every class with the feeling that I have to be careful with what I'm going to do, with what I'm going to say today, because it can change a life. It can either build a life or it can break a life. So that is the amount of impact that a teacher does on her child. So let us come to the fourth aspect in strategies. So there are different strategies, I'm sure all of us have learned it. So I want you to please go back to your teaching hat and then understand what has happened in your, be it your education degree or your teacher's training. There are so many technologies and techniques and pedagogies that have been taught to us as teachers to reach out to students who are having difficulty. So I'm just highlighting a few of them. I'm not going too much into detail because I'm sure that all of us are very familiar with that. The most effective one, or one of the most effective technologies or pedagogies, is personalized instruction. So we need to understand that these children require an instruction manual, that is an instruction methodology, which is different from the other children. We need to find out ways and means. We need to have modifications. If there are certain concepts which does not reach out to them, how can we reach out to them? And I'm sure you are all familiar with differentiated learning. So the needs of every student is different. And therefore, we need to have differentiated methodology to reach out to the slow learners. So participative learning experience has become one of the most important pedagogies today, where a child also becomes a partner in the learning process. It is not just the teacher teaches and the child learns, a child also becomes a part of it. So it is a collaborative learning process. So in my subject, in my class, how much of it am I, how much of participative learning experience am I giving? Because once we do that, a slow learner feels very, very important. He feels that what he or she is going to do is essential for the learning of the entire class. So that is very important. And tutorials are one of the ways in which we can reach out to them. I'm not talking about today. What happens is sometimes teachers inform the parents, your child is having difficulty, please send him or her to tuitions. I'm not talking about that. I'm saying that in my class, if I have a slow learner, am I giving additional classes to him or her? So I'm in a higher educational institution, and in higher educational institution also we have tutorials. So tutorials means additional classes for certain specific topics. And wherever a child is facing difficulty, I provide it within the working hours. I do not complain saying that my workload is too much. I'm concerned about that particular child who has to succeed. So I'm ready to go the extra mile to give tuitions, to give tutorial classes. So this is not the private tuitions that people understand. Or we could arrange for remedial classes. Once the first class test is over, if I'm a teacher who's handling a class for the first time, I may not be aware of the difficulties of my children. So I can focus on the students who have not done well and then provide a remedial. So remedial only focuses on on those areas where the child has not been able to succeed. And constructivist pedagogy has come into the play. So one of the problems that slow learners face is that they are not able to understand abstract ideas. They require physical, sensory learning. They need to experience it. They need to do something. So they need to see it. They need to touch, feel. So constructivist pedagogy makes learning tangible. So they are able to construct their own understanding. The teacher facilitates this construction from concept one to the next concept, etc. So we need to understand that. And I'm sure this is one of the other ones, and I might be lost in your screen because in Zoom it has gone at the end. That one is the peer learning. So when we introduce peer learning, this is one of the easiest things that teachers could do. And we have experienced it even when we were children. We all might have been peer teachers or peer learners. Well, we need to understand that when we are introducing this, the learning speed, the capacity of the children has to be matched. Not all children are interested in teaching their peers. So the interest, the speed needs to be considered, and also their interest, their affinity towards each other also needs to be considered when we want to introduce some of the strategies. I have just given some of the strategies for person-centric learning methodology that could be effective for peer learners. Okay. While we proceed, I have one particular question. Well, I will not be giving an answer to that. I request the host to please post the question on on no zero policy. We'll give another 10 seconds because I find around 80 of my students have not answered this question. Okay, it's about 70 now. I don't know whether you're able to see who all have answered, but I'm able to see it here. Okay. About 60 are still outstanding children. They have not come inside the classroom. Okay, so okay. I think we can stop the poll and then share the results. Amir sir, can you just stop the poll and share the results? Okay, so we find that 76% of you have said that schools should adopt no zero grading policy. And then 25%, around 25% have said no, they should not have this no zero grading policy. This is one of the debates that has been happening in the educational scenario. I'm not going into that debate today because as educators, it is a very sensitive issue to give a zero to a person because children always remember that particular zero they got in the exam. And even as students, some of you said that you were slow learners, like the amount of sadness, amount of hurt that a child experiences for getting a zero. Well, I'm not going to like judge anyone. Some of you might have your own valid reasons for having a no zero grading for saying that you should not have that policy, but that is okay. But before we take a decision to say that this should not be there, or we need to understand what is going to happen to the psyche of the child. Because in a higher education institution today, we cannot give a zero, especially when it comes to internal assessment. So I need to understand, find ways and means. There is a minimum mark that has to be given for the youngster or the adolescent who enters the school or the college. Well, we need to be very careful about that. I'm not entering into the debate. Probably some of you can always throw light on that a little later. Okay, now coming to continuing with certain tips regarding person-centered teaching learning. So the educator needs to understand that a slow learner finds it very difficult to follow, difficult to remember things. So we need to first of all focus on the learning skills of the youngster, of the child, on the learning skills. How can the child learn better? So some techniques, some tips that we can give for the child. So improve the learning skills. There is one particular technique called as chain and chunk. I'm sure that you're very, very familiar. So we can break down concepts into chunks. So make them understand one chunk at a time and connect everything. So that is the chain and chunk. So one government school teacher was telling me how she taught cursive writing to 10th standard students. So this teacher, when she was teaching English in the school, she was surprised for the first time when she started teaching 10th standard. She was surprised that a majority of them did not know how to write proper English. And therefore, she used this technique. She put all the A, C, and E, I, and O in one category, and all the letters which go above above that line in the second category, like B, like D, and T, etc., and all the other letters which go below, like G, Y, Z, etc. And then she taught them cursive writing, and she said children just loved it. Mind you, I'm telling you that this was done in a 10th class in a government school. So chain and chunk, so we can find. And as I previously mentioned, slow learners find it very difficult to understand abstract concepts. So they are very much touched by visual representation. We need to, every time when we teach something, how can we represent that graphically or as pictures? or as stories, or as, let us say, videos, or however, so child could understand. One of the problems that slow learners face is that they forget what they learn. They spend a lot of time learning, but they forget. Can we introduce certain memory techniques to help them understand? So this is one of the techniques. I'm sure that you would have learned it in your B.Ed, mnemonics, where we just take words and then coin something that is catchy or sounds very fancy so that we can remember a concept and remember something that is complicated. Or we take the first letter of concepts, frame new funny words, and then try to remember things. So this is something that could be worked out to try to do memories. And then make sure that the instruction in the classroom is multi-sensory. So the children are learning using their 5 senses. They're able to walk outside the classroom to understand what is happening. Okay. And slow learners get fatigued very, very easily. So we should not tax them too much. So we need to give them brain breaks. So some small activity to relax, to understand what has happened, to feel with what has happened, just to relax them, certain brain breaks. So now what we're going to do is have a short brain break. We are going to have a small activity. I request Amir sir to kindly pin my video so that the participants can see the video. A very small activity. So this is a brain break activity that we're going to do. And for this activity, I want you to wear the child's hat, the hat of the child. Okay, I hope I'm looking okay with the hat. Right. Is my video pinned on your screens? Because you need to have your my full video so that you can see. So I request the participants to unpin my presentation and pin the video. Okay, unpin my presentation and pin the video. Okay, have you done that? Okay, let me stop sharing for some time. I think it is because of that. Okay. Are you able to see the video? Yes? Okay.
No video.
Shall we start? Very simple. I will be showing some emojis to you. Okay. You have to, somebody has said no. Okay. I will be showing certain, participants, I would like to inform you, you have the option of either pinning my presentation or you have the option of pinning my video. So video is the one with, I think, Nelson, Dr. Nelson. So just pin that. You just have to go to the 3 dots above your screen and then select pin video. The video would come in. So please pin that. Okay. Right. Yeah. Okay, I would be showing certain emojis and I want you to give your comment as a child. I want you to give your comment as a child, not as a teacher. Okay, so what does a child feel? So looking at that emoji, you need to give an expression as a child. There are so many people who are saying something. Just a minute. Okay, I can't see it. I'm on my phone. How do I do that? Okay, so ma'am, sorry, we cannot help you with that. Okay, anyway, so right. So here we go. Those of you who are, I've not yet shown anything, so don't worry. Yeah, I'm going to start. So I hope the activity is very clear. You have to look at the emoji and post the comments in the chat box. I will be reading the first 5. I'll be reading only the first 5 because we don't have much time. Okay, the first emoji. What do you feel as a child? So please post your comments. So I see some chats. Smile, okay, smile from Sangma. Smile. Does a child say that? Happy, I'm happy, okay. Sister Navya says, happy smile, smiling happy. Okay, Neera Sharma, okay, saying that. So please think as a child, as a child. If a child has put this smiley, what does she say? Okay, smile. Okay, the next smiley, the next smiley. The next emoji, super thrilled, angry. Father Thomas has said angry. Okay. I think all of you have to go back being naughty. Okay. Uh, does a child, when if a child puts this emoji, does it mean that okay, child is annoyed? I am annoyed. Okay. Uh, child uh, child is angry. Dr. Padmanabha says. Okay. Child is upset. Mr. Navya. Yeah, I think my children are not looking at, don't like for the like, dislike, irritated, showing teeth, Lily sad, okay? Right. Now I'm going to show the next one. I'm going to show the next emoji. Angry, thinking, okay, angry, yeah, angry, suspicious, angry, upset, okay, angry, annoyed. Okay, now all of you are getting into the game. I really appreciate that. So let us go to the next emoji. Let us go to the next emoji. Try to give a comment about a teacher as a child. What does a child say? A teacher or a class or the school? I like, okay, like, happy, loving, lovely, favorite, awesome, loving, loves, okay. Now all of you are into the game. Lovely, okay, yeah, I'm not able to see. Sweetie, yes, okay, right. Okay, let us go. Wow, right. So let us see what are your comments for the next one. Okay. Too smart. Smart. I don't care. Wonderful. I don't care. Show off. Cunning. Okay, so what? Okay, that's nice. Not interested. Oh, great. Okay, it's okay. Okay. Indifferent. So what? Chalta hai. Okay. Nonsense. Boring. Not interested. Don't belong to my type. Okay. Are you nuts? Okay, that's nice. Showing attitude. Oh, nice. Okay. Any more? Any more? Okay. I'm going to change the emoji. Right. Ignored. Sad. Yes, sad. Okay. Sad. Sad. Okay. Sad. Okay. Sad. Sad. Unhappy. Heartbroken. Sad. Not well. Sad. Okay. Crying. Yes. Okay. Ignored. Okay. The next one. Didn't understand me. Okay. 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 I'm okay. No comments. I'm good. Yeah. Cool, calm, thoughtful. Okay. Nothing to say. Good. Just. Touch me not. Okay. Cool. I'm good. Yes. Pleasant thinking. Not understanding. Okay. I'm going to change the emoji now. Not leaving. I'm upset. Okay. Next emoji. Okay. There we go. Next one. Okay. Okay. The next one. Depressed, worst feeling, sad, okay, upset, so sad, crying, feeling pity, okay, crying, sad emotions, crying, anxious, okay, extremely sad. Uh, don't you think this will be the feeling when you give a very tough question paper? Yeah. Yeah, looking at the tough question paper, or they studied so well, you didn't ask the questions. Well, this is the feeling that slow learners might be having when you give that. Worst day, the teacher has scolded me, and then I have had this experience seeing the paper during corrections. Okay, that is when teachers are going to cry. So that is, I asked you to put the hat of a student, not as a teacher. Okay, right. The next one. Okay, so lovely, blessed, so happy, angel. So probably the teacher, student would like to say, when you help the child, that this is what the student would say: this is an angel, feeling outstanding, I'm so happy, blessed to be in this school, blessed to be in this school. Yeah, feeling great. I'm very active. Okay. Yeah, super and all that. Great. Then the next one is this. Okay. Yeah. So this is naughty. Yeah. So naughty. Probably behind your back as a teacher, a child might be putting this, right? When you say something, trying to fool others. Okay. Naughty, cranky, good, done a trick. Okay. Joking too smart, teasing. Okay. Right. Fooled you, managed to get the things done. Cranky, naughty. Yeah. Mischievous. And I think I've come to the last one. Oh, sorry. Before that. Okay. OMG. Okay. Oh my. Okay. Order, surprise. This is what sometimes they feel when they see your question paper, right? Alarmed, worried. Now, after 2 months, suddenly there's going to be 10 standard exam. Shocked, isolated, terrific, bewildered. Okay. When sometimes they don't like a teacher, that teacher walks inside the class, probably they might put up their hands like this. Okay. So somebody is putting, okay, same teacher. Okay. So the teacher taught in my sixth standard, now again seventh standard, same teacher is going to come. Okay, shocking, and so on. Okay, right. So I'm going to change, go to the last one. Okay, unbelievable. Okay, the last one, lovely, interesting, lovely, so sweet, love, indifferent. This is when an affective teacher enters the classroom. This is when a teacher touches the life of a slow learner. So this is what the emoji that you would be facing in your class. Probably you're not able to see it. This is what is being thrown at you if you have touched their life. Loved it, so sweet. Yeah, and so on. Yeah, okay. So thank you so much for that activity. So I'll just remove my cap so you can put back your teacher's cap. So as we move forward. Okay, so I want to just touch upon this, and then I'm sure that all of you are very familiar with the concept of multiple intelligences. So this is something that we need to pay attention as educators for slow learners, because they have multiple intelligences, very much introduced by Professor Howard Gardner. Well, if you're talking about various intelligences like the musical intelligence, bodily and kinesthetic intelligence, we have the interpersonal intelligence, then verbal, linguistic, logical, mathematical, naturalistic, intrapersonal, visual, spatial. Okay, so most often schools only focus on the verbal linguistic, they forget the logical mathematical. Sorry, they focus only on verbal linguistic and the logical mathematical, they forget about everything else. It is time that we focus on the other intelligences as well. Okay, this is one of the most important factors that has been identified by educational psychologists. That is, as educators, we need to identify their island of confidence. So every child has one island of confidence, at least something that he or she is very good at. A teacher, if he or she identifies that, the child will excel in all the other areas. So this is very much brought out in the movie Tare Zameen Par, where the teacher identified an island of confidence of the child. I want you to please post the poll. Okay, before we go on to that. So I want to quickly give you a story of Mrs. Abraham, a Tamil teacher. The moment she went into her 10th standard classroom, when she conducted her first test, she got the shock of her life. There was the adolescent Jeff, who did not know how to write even the letters. And this teacher painstakingly taught him the letters in 10th standard and made him pass in this exam. Well, that is not me. It is my classmate, and this is my teacher. Another teacher who travels about 40 kilometers every day in a government school in Tamil Nadu. So this school is located in Pudukkottai. So this is a teacher, Mrs. Xavier, my own cousin. So I keep talking to her. This story is every year she has the problem where children come to her math classroom in the 10th standard who do not even know addition or subtraction, and she goes even on holidays to take tutorial classes for these few children. And I used to ask her, what is your objective? She says, I will be very happy if these children get 35 marks. And there are so many success stories, so many smiles that she experiences because she goes this extra mile. So there are so many ways we can assess the performance after various strategies. I'm not going into that, but make sure that everything is covered in the assessment in terms of scholastic competence, global self-worth, acceptance of the child, socio-emotional adjustment, intrinsic motivation, etc. And this is something that I would request you to implement in your school if it is not already there, to have a strategic plan for engaging slow learners. There should be an institutional plan. There should be a department's plan. There should be subject-specific plan. What are the strategies that we have? And every teacher needs to incorporate that into her plan, into a teaching plan. And also there should be a mechanism of monitoring by the principal, and it should be reviewed at the end of every year. Okay. If I cannot learn the way you teach, will you teach me the way I can learn? This is said by H.T. Child. We need to find a way to teach them, not try to make them understand the way I teach. Okay. So they are change makers. I'm not going to too much into stories. This is Albert Einstein, who was in this category. He had difficulty. And then we know the world that he changed. This is Thomas Alva Edison. He was 3 years old. He had to quit school. He went to school only for 3 months. And then the teacher felt that he was intellectually disabled. And we know how he has changed the world. This is Kalpana Saroj, who had a lot of difficulties, who quit school when she was 12, and then she was married off, and then she tried committing suicide at 16. Today, she is a millionaire entrepreneur. And all of you know this person very much. Well, it is Akshay Kumar, national award-winning actor, who struggled in school. He was scared to show the report card, and then he was a slow learner who dropped out of school. And this is something that is new. You may not have heard about this person, but then when you put the word slow learner, this also comes in Google. Varun Aditya, he says, when I was 12, I couldn't wait to come home from school. Being there was painful. At school, I was called a defaulter, a slow learner. It made me underconfident. Those labels followed me through school. Today, he is National Geographic nature photographer. He was given that award in the year 2016. Okay, I may be a dimly burning wick, but I can light up the world. I may be a dimly burning wick, but I can light up the world. Okay, can you quickly have the poll on educators' mindset? Just 1 minute, and then I would wind up. I would take another few minutes to wind up. Can we quickly, I will just take a minute on that. Okay, so can we close the poll? I'm so happy that 98% of you have stated that the mindset of the teacher affects the success of the student. The mindset of the teacher affects the success of the student. This is the finding of research conducted across the world, that a teacher's mindset affects a child. I'm going to give you a quick case study. So teacher John is an adolescent child who was facing difficulty in school. So the psychologist went to the school to find out what is the problem. So he spoke to various teachers. This is what teacher A said. John is one of the most defiant, oppositional, unmotivated, lazy, irresponsible students we have. And so it is really, really shocking. Such strong words she has for John. So you know that in her eyes, John is a failure. And this is what teacher B had to say. I have a different view. I think John is really struggling with learning, and we should find the best way to teach him. So that is a really positive outlook and a positive outlook of an effective educator. So science tells us that an educator's mindset gets reflected in the student's behavior. So whatever I have in my mind gets reflected in the behavior of the student. So it is not just the student, but it is also my mindset that determines it. So let us see what John felt about teacher A. She hates me, but that's okay because I hate her. And I don't do any work in her class. In her eyes, I'm a failure. Whatever I do in her class is never going to be good enough. She doesn't expect me to pass, so why even try? So here, a teacher has created a failure, a slow learner who feels dejected, depressed. So in teacher A's class, John would never want to attend the class. This is what John said about teacher B. I love her. John's view of teacher B. Sorry. Okay. John's view of teacher B. I love her. She went out of her way the first week of school to tell me something. She said that she knew I was having trouble with learning, but she thought I was smart and she had to figure out the best way to teach me. She said that one of the reasons she became a teacher was to help all students learn. She's always there to help. I love her. So here we have an effective educator who has touched the heart of the child. So you know which teacher has impacted John the most. So science tells us that the mindset of a teacher, what I believe, what I assume, what I expect, what my perception are, affects the learner's success. It is very important to understand my mindset every day when I enter into the classroom. No one can destroy iron, but its own rust can. Likewise, no one can destroy a person, but his or her own mindset can. An educator's mindset not only destroy himself or herself, but also the student. It can either build the student or destroy the student. So I need to examine my mindset. I need to understand what is my mindset. I want to read a letter written by Albert Camus when he got the Nobel Prize. Albert Camus was a student who faced a lot of difficulties as a child. He was brought up by his mother, by his parents. And then he faced a lot of difficulties and he won the Nobel Prize in 1957. Dear Monsieur Germain, I let the commotion around me these days subside a bit before speaking to you from the bottom of my heart. I have just been given too great an honor, one I neither sought nor solicited. But when I heard the news, my first thought after my mother was of you. Without you, without the affectionate hand you extended to the small, poor child that I was, without your teaching and example, none of all this would have happened. I don't make too much of this sort of honor, but at least give me the opportunity to tell you what you have been and still are for me, and to assure you that your efforts, your work, and the generous heart you put into it still lives in one of your little schoolboys who, despite the years, has never stopped being your grateful pupil. I embrace you with all my heart. Albert Camus. This is dedicating his Nobel Prize to his teacher. And let me finish with a beautiful quote given by Julius Segel, one of my favorite educational psychologists. From studies conducted around the world, researchers have distilled a number of factors that enable such children of misfortune to beat the heavy odds against them. one factor turns out to be the presence in their lives of a charismatic adult, a person with whom they can identify and from whom they gather strength. And in a surprising number of cases, that person turns out to be a teacher. And you are that teacher. You are the charismatic adult who is going to make the difference. Okay. And I'm sure all of you are very, very familiar with this particular quote. One child, one teacher, one pen, one book can change the world. So you are the teacher, and every child is unique, and I need to find the best way to teach the child. Thank you so much for your patient understanding. So one child, one teacher, one pen, one book can change the world. So you are that teacher. So every child is unique. Every child who has come into my classroom is unique. And I have to find the best way to teach him or her. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nelson, sir. Yeah.
Since we are running short of time, we need not have that
fine.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So thank you, Nelson, sir. And now I will unmute. Someone has raised their hands for questions.
I think we have to stop in another few minutes. Okay, so we can take a few questions. Yes.
I think Dr. Tanseem has raised her hand. Dr. Tanseem?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, you can go on with your question.
Yes, sir. It was a very enriching session. One question I want to ask you is, you said we must not label children.
Yes, ma'am.
And then when we segregate them for remedial teaching,
yes,
even if teachers don't label them, they are labeled by their peers. So they are identified as low level. So how do we do this? And we cannot do it in the common session with the class of 50 or 60.
Okay.
So how do we go about dealing with such a?
Okay, ma'am, there comes the creativity of the teacher. And I'm sure that when you send a circular or notice, and it is not, that should not be put on the notice board. It has to be personally informed to these children. And you have to tell them that they need this particular additional coaching. And tell the class at the beginning itself that no one is superior, no one is inferior. And if somebody is labeling, the teacher has to call that particular child and tell them this is not okay. And it has to be done in a one-to-one way. And you cannot even, for example, a child has accidentally used a label. You cannot even scold the child in front of everybody. Probably you can make a general statement in class. There should not be anybody labeling anybody else. That is not accepted. And for this particular remedial class that you have, each child has to be counseled for the need. They improve better in the next exam. And you can tell the entire class saying that all cannot be accommodated, only a few will be accommodated in this, and therefore a few have been chosen for it. And that is, I think, one way. So it is a kind of a personal creativity, how you answer the questions and how you tackle it. There is no one single methodology over here.
Thank you very much, sir.
Can you take?
Nelson, sir, there is one question which was posted in the chat box from Benny Jose. It's regarding respectful communication. Even while the classroom teaching happens, students exchange verbal and non-verbal communications with powerful emotions. How can they be dealt?
Okay. Now, if the teacher's class is very, very effective, I'm sure that when I was showing so many visuals, when I was posting a lot of questions, and when I was putting a cap on my head, I'm sure everybody wanted to know what is happening to this teacher. So the teacher should make sure that he or she is the center of the attraction. Okay, so all the students should be engrossed in my class for 20 minutes or 25 minutes, whatever I'm giving the power packed information. And then when the relaxation time comes, there could be communication happening in my class. Because if students are communicating among themselves in the class, that implies poor classroom management. So the implication goes back to the teacher. And there is one thing which I did not say when I was talking about that. There is something called as non-violent communication. Even if I am frustrated, if I'm disappointed as a teacher, I should not be expressing that in my communication. It should not be evident in my words or in my emotions or in my expressions. I should have a pleasant emotion and expression always. Even if I am not happy with the performance of a child, how do I communicate it without offending or hurting the child? That is non-violent communication. But how the students communicate in the class, it depends on me as a teacher and how I control my class. Thank you.
Shailaja, madam, you can ask your question.
First of all, I would like to thank the beautiful and wonderful session, Sir Nelson, sir. So my
Thank you,
question is,
ma'am.
in collaborative learning, when we are identifying the children, so
Yes, ma'am.
constant appreciations, whatever the work done by them. So if you stop in the long run, concentrating
Yes,
on the child, or appreciations will be stopped for a while, then again the result
yes,
will
ma'am.
become less. Would you like to give
Yes, ma'am.
any suggestions regarding this? I'm facing year by year
Okay.
this problem.
Okay.
So
Ma'am,
thank you.
I really appreciate you for this question. Uh, because one of the biggest challenges that we face as a teacher is this constant follow up. So it is hand holding that is required. At times it is very tiring as a teacher. At times it is very tiring. We get frustrated, like, how can how much time do I need to hold the hand of this child? But we should never tire. It is important that we need to hold their hand and then keep walking till they reach the threshold. So there is no other way but the motivation of me as a teacher to constantly give those affirmations and appreciations, assurances to the child, holding the hand of the child. And now all of you as principals and teachers would realize there has been a 2 or 3 month gap. Imagine when the children come back. All the efforts we have put in as teachers, they might have forgotten. So we need to go back, revisit, and walk again. Thank you.
Thank you,
Listen,
sir.
sir, there
Yes,
is
ma'am.
one question on the chat box asking
Yes,
you, what about those children who are very young, such as class 1 to 5? They are slow learners and also hyperactive. How do you cope up with such students?
okay. So this is like, you have to introduce playway method. Play with them, sing with them. So if you're talking about kindergarten children, you have to go back. Today, if you notice, I walked into the class of teachers with dolls, right? I have walked into my MBA class with teddy bear. And the attention of those students. I'm talking about adults who have experience in working, who are wondering what happened to this professor walking in with a teddy bear. So they were their mind was totally on that teddy bear. And so when you try to bring in a lot of creativity into your classroom and then develop an attachment for children, they need to have that attachment to the teacher, develop that attachment, develop that connection, develop that interest. Okay. And if a child is feeling left out, the teacher needs to go back and give a pat and bring the child into the classroom. And have you ever experienced this? Every day, please make sure that you make eye contact with every child in your classroom. If you ignore a child, the child notices that when you are calling their name and when you are addressing them, if you do not look at them in the eyes, they realize it. And some of the children feel, why is a teacher did not look at me? Or some children feel, why teacher did not call me today? Okay, so these are some of the ways, and it all depends on the teacher's passion. There is no one textbook methodology how to engage children who are hyperactive, how to engage children who are slow learners. It just starts from the heart of the child, and especially if you are a kindergarten teacher, that is very, very important. Ma'am, I think we need to wind up because the next session is there. Dear participants, I know that we have a lot of questions. We could take it up in the further discussions also in further sessions. We are so sorry because there is another session that is about to commence at 11. Mary ma'am, over to you.
Nelson, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, you can maybe put your mail ID and your phone number maybe on the chat box so they can get in touch with
Okay.
you for their questions.
Okay, I'll put my phone number. So I have put it on the screen. I'll put my phone number as well.
Yeah, you can just put it on. Meanwhile, I'll end off the session. So thank you, Nelson, sir, for that interactive, enriching, and thought-provoking session where you beautifully highlighted the challenges and various techniques to assess and handle the slow learners and the benefits an institution can reap on enriching the excellence of slow learners. I'm sure your polls have made each one of us to introspect ourselves and is an evidence that you are a teacher who makes sure the participation and learning of all the students. Your examples of teachers who inspired you to go beyond their comfort zone and students who succeeded tremendously in spite of being a slow learner are real inspiration to all of us today. Let us conclude the session with a learning that slow learners aren't really slow, but they learn things in a very deeper and unconventional manner than others. And we as educators should encourage them not to stop learning. Thank you, participants, for your active participation for the first session of the day. And we will meet you at 2 o'clock for a very interesting panel discussion on tackling the strategies putting across the strategies to tackle the COVID-19, what we are going through in the education domain. So thank you, participants, and thank you, sir. Amir, sir? Amir, sir? Hello?
You can end the meeting, madam.
I can do.
You are a co-host, no?
Where is that? Hello?
I think he only has to.
Yeah, I'm only able to leave.
We will leave.